Oh my goodness, guys, what an amazing episode. Episode 7 just ended, and I watched as a group of grown men jumped out of their seat when Bernard simply said, "What door?" What an amazing scene to witness as a collective group, us as a community all seeing this for the very first time. Thousands flocked to the episode discussion thread on Reddit, filling it with post upon post, amazement across all our faces, even those that predicted this weeks before. The reveal that Bernard was a host delivered beautifully. But it begs the question, what is Ford's master plan? So in the beginning, Ford expresses Arnold's concern about letting the money men in, about letting Delos in.
He begged me not to let you people in. The money men.
But they arrived and Arnold disappeared. Likely in the park's early development, they needed financial assistance. Surely this endeavor wasn't cheap, and we see Ford is most likely from humble beginnings. But now the park is established with years of success under its belt. Delos is left only to collect money, and since they own a large stake in the company, they believe they have control over the intellectual property, also known as the IP. So this is where the actual conflict takes place. Ford has complete creative control over his machines, everything under his control. And Delos believes that his time as a figurehead has come to an end. Now, why would Delos want this change of pace? Is it the money? What exactly are they talking about when they say,
The corporation's real interest in this place goes way beyond gratifying some rich assholes that want to play cowboy.
So I think I have it figured out. This takes place sometime in the future with enough evidence to suggest maybe it's not as far in the future as we're led on to believe. Meaning, inside the park, these fully operational androids exist, a near limitless resource to be purposed for any number of things. But what about their application outside of the park? What's stopping Delos from putting purchasable slaves for in home use, or replacing every low level occupation with henchmen under one corporation for a global workforce? This would rank in trillions in revenue for the company. Ford. Ford is the only thing in between them and making that dream a reality. So we see the scene talking about the blood sacrifice and the change of pace. They want to get a hold of this IP and apply it to everything they possibly can.
Our interest in this place is entirely in the intellectual property, the code.
If you don't believe me just yet, think about the military application. Soldiers that would never get hungry, never disobey an order, never feel fear, and if they died, they could just be rebuilt. You wouldn't have to pay them, you would simply program the AI to be a soldier and to kill the enemy, turning up certain attributes to lead teams into battle, on missions, to be the perfect fighting force, intelligence raised, courage raised, fear lowered. I mean, wars would be fought with a real time strategy game layout. This would be nearly unstoppable unless you had your own force like this as well. Meaning countries would pay whatever the cost is to get their hands on this technology, making Delos insanely rich and powerful.
It's our little research project that Delos cares about. That's where the real value is.
That's Delos's motivation, military and host application in the outside world, because it would be a gold mine. But I think that Ford knows this and simply wishes to protect his dream and his storytelling for as long as he can before the money men finally taint what his original attention was.
I simply wanted to tell my stories. It was you people who wanted to play God with your little undertaking.
Or maybe he understands the danger that comes with an organization owning this technology. Because where would it end? Does it stop at printing a labor force to take care of every need that you have? Or building companies with artificial workers? Or even building armies? Or building countries? The human quest for power has never existed with this technology, and now it does. Will mankind simply just create and create until AI take over and they take care of humans inside of life support tanks who are hooked up to virtual reality simulators? Then the android species develops the ability to improve its own code and finally erases humanity from existence? Okay, alright, my bad. Reel back in. Simply put, maybe Ford understands this God complex that he feels and knows that it's uncontrollable at a large scale.
Did you really think I would let you take it from me?
So, what is Ford's plan overall? Is it to protect his empire? To recreate scenes from his youth and get a better understanding of his upbringing?
That's why I didn't have the heart to destroy them. That and the obvious is my only happy memory of my childhood.
I mean, what could it possibly be? He has money, he has power, he has everything you could want. Or maybe it's loneliness. Ford has surrounded himself with AI that give the impression of humanity, but as he said before,
Everything in this world is magic, except to the magician.
all the scenes with him and Bernard, we now know it was basically him just talking to himself. So, what if the secret setup he has in the woods is there to remind Ford that he's a human and not an android? Certainly, after all this time in isolation, it has to go through your mind that maybe you aren't real yourself, and that this house is a totem to reality. Interesting, Christopher Nolan. I mean, Jonathan Nolan. But where does Arnold come into play? Or the Man in Black, or Dolores, or anyone else that Ford interacts with? Episode 7, we hear Bernard talk to Teresa about Arnold writing half of the park's code.
40 years ago, Ford's partner wrote half the code this place was founded on.
Then continuing to say,
What you said in the lab was right. We don't know how the hosts work.
this little clip stuck with me, and for whatever reason, I think it might contain more insight into Ford's plan. So, what if Ford and Arnold created this park, but Arnold was the more advanced programmer, and 50% of the code that Arnold produced, Ford doesn't fully understand still? Giving credence to Bernard's statement,
We don't know how the hosts work.
think about all the times the show has mentioned how advanced Arnold's programming was. Surely there must be some reason this keeps getting brought up. Now, think about the line,
When the legend becomes fact, you print the legend.
so maybe Ford was the more business savvy creator, with the foresight into what this place could be. And Arnold was the genius programmer, the man behind the code, and understood how these machines worked more than anything. Such is the story of Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. Now, hopefully you know both of these names, but if not, hopefully you know Steve Jobs, the genius behind Apple, the creator, the end all be all Apple man. But it wasn't just Jobs who started Apple. Steve Wozniak was the programmer of Apple One, single handedly developing the workstation that would grow and grow into Apple products we know today. Steve Jobs, like Ford, understood the foresight and scope of what this could be, and that's what made him great. Wozniak, like Arnold, was a brilliant programmer whose name fell in the background, leaving Ford and Steve Jobs to be the ones usually credited for greatness.
When the legend becomes fact, you print the legend.
So, in the end, I think Ford's plan is to protect the park. With all the unknown variables that the show writers can work with, I think Ford simply wishes to protect his creation and keep it from falling into the wrong hands. Thank you so much, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. I want to take a brief minute to talk about some things with the community. It's growing. And in its growth, I want to be able to provide fun insight and theories with you all more frequently. So, with that in mind, I'd like you to go check out the Twitter Hacks Dogma. I'll be posting daily, and this allows me a conduit to do other things that I would like to do for the community as well, such as Q&As and video suggestions. But with that in mind, much love, guys. I can't wait to see you next time. Goodbye.